You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Today, this breakfast isn't just breakfast. It might be the first McDonald's breakfast you're having at McDonald's again. This lunch might be a weekly tradition you hadn't had in weeks. And this dinner might be the first one you bought for not just you in a while. Whatever this order is for you, McDonald's will be here to take it.
Get more of the chicken you love with a delicious McChicken sandwich for $1. And for an extra buck, add a refreshing Dr. Pepper. Dining rooms are starting to reopen in certain communities at participating McDonald's. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
A new year means it's time for a new home network that can keep up. With Cox Internet, you have the speed and coverage your family needs to stay connected. You'll enjoy Cox's fiber-based hybrid network with options for fast upload and download speeds. And if your household has lots of connected devices, Panoramic Wi-Fi may be the perfect fit thanks to its additional control features. Plus, with advanced security on Panoramic Wi-Fi, you'll know each connected device is securely protected 24/7. A whole world of connectivity is yours with Cox Internet. Learn more at Cox.com.
Run.
It is Sunday night. I am your humble host, Alan Ray. If you find yourself fumbling about the internet and the interwebs and you happen to stumble upon this show, get in the KLRN chat room at www.klrnradio.com, where you will find great and glorious people. I don't know. We got Ordy, we got Jeff, we got Mike, we got Ebo, we got Mr. Dropping, who is not doing so well tonight. We got Rowdy Rick. We got all the gang. They're all here. I'm Alan Ray. We're going to have some fun. It's Sunday night with Alan Ray. Let's get it going.
Feed 'em up, Frankenstein.
Yeah. was a fun week last week. In fact, the fun came right into this week, and I'm not going to complain. We had a heck of a snowstorm starting about Friday morning. I'm not going to complain because what's going on in California seems to be a lot worse. Tell him, Alice. Yeah, apparently quite the snowstorm went through California. Up in the, San Bernardino Mountains. Apparently the snow's up to like rooftops, burying cars. Sounds like the blizzard of 78 here. I mean, oh my gosh. And there's some people up there that are, they're not doing so well. They're trapped. There was a couple of 17-year-old hikers had to get rescued off the Pacific Crest Trail near, San Gorgonio Mountains. I don't know if I'm saying that right. They planned on hiking 10 days on the trail and believed they were prepared for winter conditions. They were avid hikers planning on joining the military. But I guess the snow pummeled the mountains. I'm looking at some of the pictures of that. And what happened yesterday? Well, you know. And Orty, who lives in California, he's in the chat. We get it every 20 years or so. Solar cycles are real. There's a huge debate on whether solar cycles actually cause inclement weather or whether they do not. Now, here's the deal. I mean, scientists go, well, solar cycles don't do anything to the weather. Look at what we have already this year. We've had like the biggest ice storm in Michigan we've had in decades. We've had, I mean, that snow Friday just like came out of nowhere, dumped on us. And it was, I mean, if it would have been about 5 degrees colder, we probably would have had 8-9 inches. But it was right on the verge of being snow or ice or rain. So the snow was like really compacted. It was really heavy. Did I shovel it? Heck no, I didn't shovel it. I went out there Saturday morning, threw a bunch of ice melt down in the driveway, and came back inside because I knew today it was going to be 50 degrees, and it was almost 50 degrees today, so it all melted. I'm not being lazy. I'm 57 years old. I don't want to die of a heart attack. That heavy snow coming down, screw that. I personally feel that solar cycles, yes, they do affect the weather. How can it not affect the weather? The sun is going nuts right now. We are getting bombarded by solar winds, by radiation, by everything. And it's crazy. It really is crazy. And so last week, you know, I was on with Stacy last week, playing in the dirt. I had just got my power back the night before. I wasn't feeling up to doing a show. I'm glad she had a lot to talk about. I tried to jump in there when I could. I was exhausted. I was absolutely just exhausted from the whole thing. We lost power Wednesday, Wednesday leading up to last show I did last week, and we didn't get it back until Saturday night. Generators running all over the place, trying to keep the house from, you know, just, there was all kinds of branches down everywhere. I spent all day Saturday with a chainsaw, hacking and whacking and stacking wood everywhere. Still got a big mess out there. And then we got dumped on this Friday night, and it was just as bad. I mean, it took me an hour and 20 minutes to get home from work, and it's usually a 40-minute trip. It was nuts. And I've got a big 4-wheel drive murder truck, you know, and I had it in 4-wheel drive, but still you could only go so fast because the snow was so packed and slushy that it would just pull you. It would suck you right over to the right side or left side. You had to be careful, you know, when you're coming head on in another car, you had to almost stop and go around them gently. Everybody was doing it because you could just really easily get sucked right out into their lane if you weren't careful. It was rough. But I'm looking at pictures of what happened there in California, and yeah, I mean, there's some snow right up to rooftops. There's some buried cars. It's going to take them a few days. You know, and that's the thing. We go over, and I don't want to sound like I'm just repeating myself over and over just to hear myself talk. But we go over survival tips. We go over the and I'm not Mr. Prepper. I'm not Mr. Survivalist. But I do kind of lay claim to fame that I have gone through a lot of crap. I live out in the middle of nowhere. We get dumped on like this every few years. We lose power for a couple of weeks, and there's not a single time that I have not lost power, been in a bad storm, some kind of emergency situation. There hasn't been a single time where I haven't learned something. And so I figure this is a good chance to just do a little debriefing after the storm. And I don't mean taking your pants on. Leave your pants on, guys. And you're right, Mike, those slushy spots are the worst. I mean, once you get in some of that high slush, it's going to go where it takes you. The only option you have is cutting complete power to your vehicle, just taking your foot off the gas and just trying to kind of guide it gently. But I figured what we would do. I mean, given the California thing, the Michigan thing we just got done with, and I get the feeling we are heading into kind of a nasty little spring where we're going to have some tornadoes and we're going to have some bad storms and stuff. That's fine. And what cracks me up about this is everybody's freaking out about California. Haven't they been complaining about being in a drought? Is this the same area that's had a drought for the past 10 years and all of a sudden they're getting the rain? Guess what, guys? You got your rain. Snow. A big piling snow like this is great for the environment. And if you live in the mountains, you have to understand you're going to get these from time to time. Surely these people know that they're going to get a snowstorm once in a while living in mountains. It happens. But snow up in the mountains, snow anywhere, a nice big foot of snow slowly makes its way down into the ground as it's melting. And it brings everything to life. It saturates the ground. It brings up the water tables. So California should be just like out dancing in the streets that they've got snow going up in the mountains. They've got rain, torrential downpours coming down everywhere else. This is the drought breaker. And to sit there, and I've heard a few people say the C word, and I just roll my eyes. Ooh, climate change. This is all because of climate change. Well, it's weather. And then already right on, he says, I have two theories of what's going on in Southern California, the storms. We get these every 20 years, even has a name, the Pineapple Express. When a warm, wet storm from Hawaii hits a cold front, we get really heavy, dense snow known as Sierra Cement. The areas in SoCal probably had a bunch of new people moving in during COVID because they could work remotely and refuse to listen to their seasoned neighbors about preparations and are without a pantry and have frozen pipes. Exactly. And then the second theory, easier to prove, is that the Governor Moonbeam announced that we were in forever drought, that the budget for snow removal and personnel capable of driving the equipment was slashed. Yeah, either because of the narrative or worse. And Caltrans is ill-equipped for these types of storms anymore. Northern Nevada around the Reno area isn't having these problems, and they were just hit just as bad. Embrace the power of ant. Probably both theories are exactly right. Newsom probably slashed the heck because, we're having a drought. Here's the problem. Now, this happened in Georgia a few years ago, some of the southern states. And I remember very clearly, I remember the newspapers. They were having a drought. And all of a sudden they had like weeks, months of torrential downpours. And there were floods and there were all kinds of problems. And the newspaper went, well, the reason that, I know we're having a drought, but the reason that it's hard to say we're having a drought is because of so much rain. Well, doesn't that mean the drought's over? Okay, so did everybody in California die? Is that the problem? Now there's no climate change, so now you have rain and snow, right? Is that the deal? That's the deal? Which one's the climate change? The drought or getting all of your water back? I want to know. Now, don't get me wrong. Climate's changing. Climate changes all the time. I distinctly remember, I'm not going to do the old man thing, but I distinctly remember back in the 70s, winters were hellish in this area. I mean, feet of snow, freezing temperatures. And once it started snowing, you didn't see green grass until the end of March. And once you did see the thaw out, starting about the end of May, or middle of May, you had tornadoes all the way through the end of July. It's just like once a week, just about, you had a tornado touch down somewhere. Now, Michigan doesn't get really bad tornadoes. They haven't since the Palm Sunday tornadoes in 1965. But the climate has changed. It always has changed. We have records of it changing. We have record. Looking out my window right now, the edge of Lake Erie used to be a half mile down the road. The old shoreline is still there. You can see it. I just walked over it this afternoon. It's a very obvious ridge, and it runs all the way up. And you can see right where, if you use your imagination, bring up a map of Michigan, you have a topographical map, you can see right where the lake came all the way inland, and it was like a half mile from my house. So if the polar ice caps do melt, I got beachfront property. Sucks to be the people in Monroe and Detroit, but I got beachfront property. I'll be fine. Yeah, I did a tax cuts too. Chat's hopping tonight. You need to get down in there. You need to get all up in there. So anyways, there's some things that you got to think about. Now, we've talked a lot about preparing for what we just had. I just had almost 5 days, 4.5 days of power outage. Plenty of batteries. My wife, bless her heart, found a new use for those little battery-operated Christmas lights that you get, the cheap ones you get from the dollar store. She loaded those with cheap batteries, and the lights lasted for days. She would turn them all on at night. We had a nice little lit-up house. I mean, it wasn't bright, and they barely used any batteries. And she just strung them out and left them. Great thinking. Did a lot of things. Ran the generator, found out, some things that, and like I said, not in one, these emergencies don't happen without you learning something, without you realizing something, without you noticing something. Well, I noticed that, for one, I've got to rebuild a couple of cords. They're getting old, like me. But instead of talking about preparing for these emergencies, I've talked that to death. I mean, you can go on the internet and you can just look up how to handle a power outage in cold weather. And there's some great resources, and they all give you similar things. Make sure, start preparing before the storm. Have your stuff together before the storm. Don't be running out and buying bread, milk, and eggs when it starts snowing. What are you going to do? Survive on French toast? I mean, French toast is good, but it's not a very good survival food. And that's about the only thing you can really do with eggs, milk, and bread. I mean, there's other things, but that's the best. But what is it? Hanover.com, insurance company. Insurance companies have great ideas. I mean, because they lose their butts when it comes to emergencies where people get things torn off. But they say before the storm, and I didn't think of this one. This is a good idea. Set your refrigerator and freezer to the coldest settings. That way, when the power does go out, you think it's going to go out. Well, everything's nice and cold. Just leave it there. Check flashlights, portable radios. We've gone over that. Make sure you've got plenty of batteries. Make sure you have a hand crank radio. Make sure if you've got a rechargeable radio that they're charged. They're full capacity. Have yourself a small solar panel that charges things like radios. I've got solar panels kicking around all over here. And I can charge all this stuff up on them too. You can go down to Harbor Freight and you can get these things. If it does go out, if your power does go out in cold weather, close off all the rooms you're not using. Close them off, put towels around the cracks. Just use small areas. Small areas are easy to stay warm. It's easier to heat it. And even if you have to, set up a tent for it like you used to as a kid. The smaller the area, the easier it is to heat. Dress in layers. Put blankets and stuff over your windows to keep, any kind of draft from coming in. Unplug all of your sensitive equipment. In fact, I recommend you unplug just about everything except what you plan to use. Even if you have a generator, only use what you have to electrical-wise, because generators really aren't good for a lot of electronics. I'm just going to throw that out there. Watch for frostbite signs. Always, and this is one thing, if you're going to run a generator, you're going to have candles, survival candles. Even if you're running alternate sources of heat, have battery-operated oxygen sensors, carbon monoxide sensors, dependable carbon monoxide sensors that will go off. Trust me on this one. I had carbon monoxide sensors in this house, and I had one go off during a power outage. Thank God my wife and kids were all gone. But when I woke up, I was stumbling around, and it was very obviously not doing too well. There was a lack of oxygen. There's carbon monoxide in the house, and it was because the heat went out. Ice came down the chimney, plugged all the heat up, and it was pumping right into the house. It was a scary thing. Carbon monoxide sensors have saved my life. Get them. Knowing to look for signs of frostbite and hyperthermia. So you got that. Now, what about after the emergency? We've talked this other stuff into the ground. Little things you should be doing, little things you should know. What about after an emergency? Just as important. Just as important. Don't forget to replace batteries. Go out and buy new emergency candles. Replace the spare water that you had. We always have like a case of bottled water just in case. Even though, I've got ways of getting water out of the ground, bottled water, things like that, make sure you've got some. If you know a storm's coming a couple of days in advance, go buy bottled water. But you should always have stuff like that in reserve anyway. Don't be one of the people that are ransacking stores at the last minute. It's stupid and you don't need to do it. Now, here's the big thing. When everything comes back on, you're all set, you're sitting down, and while the memories are still fresh, and in fact, you should do some of this stuff while the emergency is going on. If you notice something you need to do after an emergency is over or after a power outage or something's over, write it down. Write it down on a list. It's so easy to go, the power's back on. Oh, the emergency's over. Go on about my life. Do. And yes, fill up the bathtubs. I mean, a storm's coming in. You're going to have problems, and they're saying, hey, we got really bad stuff going down. Fill up your bathtub. Fill up your bathtub with water. Now, here's the deal. Here's some things. I'm going to go over a few things that, number one, I just as examples that I figured out during this emergency. Now, I've been through power outages. I've been through a buttload of power outages. And I kind of pride myself on being pretty much able to handle all of them. And I did this one. We handled it eloquently. I mean, the house never even got below 69 degrees. Just got to throw that out there. But a few things that happened. I had 2 cords that, by golly, I knew they were bad. But I plugged them in anyways, not thinking, and I went, can't use these. Had to throw them out. I have not had them replaced yet. So I have to go make some new cords, get some new ends, and spend a little time making new cords before the next emergency hits. Number 2, I realized that my generator needs to be taken to the small engine repair facility, and the carburetor needs to get gone through. Now, it might be okay now because I ran a heck of a lot of fresh gas. I ran a heck of a lot of seafoam through it. I sprayed the carb out, but one of the float's probably stuck, and probably one of the needles is stuck, and it was like spewing gasoline out of the carburetor and flooding until I got it running. Now, being slightly mechanically inclined, what I did was I turned the gas. It's got a gas switch on it because they got cheap junk gas these days. I turned the gas switch almost all the way off where just a little drizzle was coming out, and I got it started, and I just adjusted that gas switch until it ran smooth, and then I left it alone. It worked just fine, but I need to have that thing running top notch. So it needs to get out, once things break a little bit and I feel pretty secure, I got to get that over and have it taken care of. I got a good place not too far from me. Replace, put the equipment back where you found it. Always put your cords, your generators, your batteries, always put that stuff in the exact same place every single time. So if you have to fumble around in the dark, you're fumbling around in the dark and you know where you're going. Recharge batteries, make sure everything's ready. But write down the things that you noticed. Now, here's one thing I noticed that was kind of cool. And yeah, that's a good idea, Mike. If you have an electric start generator, keep a float charger on the battery so it'll start at any time. Here's the thing I noticed. The power went out Wednesday afternoon. I still had enough warm water left in my tank, in my my water heater, to take a quick shower Friday morning. I mean, a quick shower. Basically, I jumped in, got myself wet, soaped up, or turned the water off, soaped up, turned the water back on, rinsed everything off, and I was nice and fresh, ready to rock and roll. 2.5 days after the fact, after losing power, we still had, and it was pretty hot. It was pretty warm water. So that should tell you something right there. That should tell you, if you have a modern water heater, you're going to have some warm water for a while. So that's something I never even pondered before, never even considered, but it worked. It was kind of cool. So yeah, write the things down. Write all the things you noticed. Write things that didn't go right. Write things that you're going to have to try the next time. And there you have it. Yeah, I got to get, and my next door neighbor, he had the same thing. He says, yeah, I got to get mine. And too. My brother even said the same thing. He called up asking if I had power because, nobody had power. Nobody had energy. The whole place still looks like a war zone. This entire county looks like a war zone. Southeastern Michigan looks like a war zone. And then we got that snow on top of it, and people lost even more branches. It wasn't near as bad, but people even lost more branches because it was really heavy. And there was some more. One just down the street, they had some power issues when I came home from work Friday night. So my hearts go out to the people in California, But again, and I can't say this enough times. I can't tell you enough times. People in California, people in Michigan, once this is over, the moment it's over, the time to prepare is right after you get done with emergency for the next emergency. The Boy Scouts have it right. Be prepared. And here's another thing, too. If you have a generator, okay, pull all the gas back out of it. Who knows when you're going to need it again? Get all that gas right back out. The gas nowadays, the gasoline they sell nowadays at the, just regular, everyday run-of-the-mill gasoline at a gas station is horrible. It's nasty. It's absolute trash. Now, you can get recreational vehicle gas in certain places that doesn't have the ethanol mix. It's a lot better. But gasoline overall nowadays is junk. It's trash. It's garbage. It only lasts for a few weeks before it starts breaking down. And it will clog the bowl in your carburetor. It will ruin rubber and stuff like that in your generators, in your lawnmowers. That's why they started putting all the turnoff nozzles on things. So pull the gasoline back out of your equipment and put it in rotation in your gas cans. I have 15 gallons of gas. I put stable in them. I do whatever I can, but I'm constantly running something, depends on what it is, tractors. But I keep everything rotated so the gasoline stays fresh. If you don't do that, you've got garbage gas in a matter of weeks. Trust me on this. So when you're done, if you have a generator, when you're done, pull all that gas, siphon all that gas back out into a can. Make sure none of it's in, run it until it just stops running. Turn the gas off and run it till there's not a trace of gasoline left in your carburetor. You'll thank me for that. Gasoline's trash nowadays. That's why, if the proverbial doo-doo hits the fan, that's why people think, well, I'm going to store up gas. I'm going to stock gas. Good luck. Good luck. It's going to last you about 2-3 weeks, and then you got no transportation because the gas sucks. The stuff they make right now is horrible. Compared to what I grew up with, I used to run on my 70 Chevelle, the stuff we have nowadays is absolute garbage. Trust me. All right. Yeah, Mike confirms that. He's got 40 gallons on hand. I've got about 25 at any given time, and I rotate through it. When we come back, got a heck of a lot of things going on out in this country that we're going to talk about. And there's some pretty interesting stuff going on. We already reached the bottom of the hour. I'm Alan Ray. Hey, don't go anywhere. Still a lot left in the show.
Never had to knock on
As a Blue Cross Medicare member, managing your medications from home is simple. With our easy-to-use prescription drug plans, you can get the medicine your doctor prescribes from your local pharmacy or even delivered by mail. For the trusted care you need and want, Blue Cross will be here with more convenient ways of getting it. Like we've been for more than 80 years. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Confidence comes with every card. To learn more, visit bcbsm.com/senior options.
Hey, Randy, what you doing?
Oh, hey, Dave. I'm just making a list of things that make me feel really, really good.
Wearing Bombas socks.
Trust me, that's number one on my list. Bombas socks feel so good because we use the smartest design and best materials, making them the most comfortable socks ever.
Plus, because socks are the number one most requested clothing item in homeless shelters, we donate a pair for every pair purchased, and that feels pretty good, too.
To shop Bombas or learn more about how your purchase supports those experiencing homelessness, go to bombas.com/comfy and get 20% off your first purchase.
If you prefer real mornings, shouldn't you have a real breakfast? At McDonald's, we get real about breakfast. That's why you can have a savory sausage biscuit with delicious hash browns for only $1.50. It's time to wake up breakfast. Single item at regular price. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Today, this breakfast isn't just breakfast. It might be the first McDonald's breakfast you're having at McDonald's again. This lunch might be a weekly tradition you hadn't had in weeks. And this dinner might be the first one you bought for not just you in a while. Whatever this order is for you, McDonald's will be here to take it.
Get more of the chicken you love with a delicious McChicken sandwich for $1. And for an extra buck, add a refreshing Dr. Pepper. Dining rooms are starting to reopen in certain communities. At participating McDonald's. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
I've just never been tested. I'd like to think that if I was, I would pass. Look at the tested and think there before the grace go on. Might be a coward, I'm afraid of what I might find out. Never had to knock on wood, but I know someone who has. Which makes me wonder if I could. It makes me wonder if I never had to knock on wood. And I'm glad I haven't yet, because I'm sure it isn't good. That's the impression that I get. Never had to put I bet a knife on wood, 'cause I know someone who has. Which makes me wonder if I could. It makes me wonder if I never had to put I bet a knife on wood, 'cause I'm sure it isn't good. And I'm glad I haven't yet. That's the impression that I get.
The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, bringing us back. God, you gotta love that song. I love that song. It is Sunday Night with Alan Ray. I am your humble host, Alan Ray. The show where we look around this giant blue ghetto rock that we're floating through space on. We ask the eternal question.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Well, I can tell you some things that's going on here. Train wrecks. More train derailments. We've had another one in Springfield, Ohio. We had one. What's the other one? There was another one. Yeah, that was in Kansas. Kansas train derailment. That was a Union Pacific. There's things going on. There's things going on. We got to start asking ourselves what and why. We have all of these food processing plants burning up. We've got trains derailing. We have substations, electric substations being attacked. What's going on? I call me a conspiracy theorist. Go ahead. I don't care. I'm starting to wonder if maybe we're under attack. But by who? What's going on? Where? Why? None of this makes sense. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to, 20 different food manufacturing plants burning down in 1 year. That's not a coincidence, folks. Sorry. Oh, look, all the food places are burning down. Oh, wow. All the trains are derailing. Oh, wow. Must be climate change. No, I'm wondering if we're under attack. I wonder if this isn't some kind of a terrorist thing and they're just really not wanting to say the T word because that's going to get everybody on a witch hunt. And if people start going on a witch hunt, they're going to probably go after certain groups that, I don't know, have threatened to take the United States of America down. Could lead to vigilantism. Could lead to just Joe, average, everyday person posting themselves outside of food processing plants and finding out the people who are burning them to the ground and bringing them out and, I don't know, hanging them, shooting them. Only for us to find out they work for our own government, maybe? Not going to say that. Not going to go that far this point in time. But these people in Washington, D.C. are doing some sketchy things, and they're blaming it on the average, everyday citizen. Oh, it's climate change. Did you see that? 35 processing plants blew up. It's climate change. Got to be climate change. We already know. We've already proven. Thank you, Elon Musk, for buying Twitter and rolling out all of the receipts. We already know that government bureaucracies are working hard against the American people. We already know that they're shutting access to facts. They're closing the common person's access to facts. They're just closing it up. And one of the biggest problems is the Federal Bureau of Investigations. When are we all going to start rising up and going, hey, you know what? It's time to take the FBI's power away. If they want to work with state and local officials on catching bad guys, that's fine. But when they're swaying elections, when they're targeting innocent Americans, law-abiding citizens, constitutionally correct American citizens, they're targeting them, they're no longer a force for good. They're evil. Now, I suspect they've been evil for quite a long time. They've had a reputation of being in bed with the bad guys, selling their souls to crime syndicates in order to, in the name of, quote, protecting America from ourselves. The CIA runs drug fronts that used to be a conspiracy theorist until it was proven. Whoops. We know the CIA started Vietnam. They lied. Well, they didn't lie. They just misrepresented an incident and made it look like, oh, we have to go to war with these people, when in fact the entire incident wasn't nearly what they said it was, and the war was unnecessary. We lost thousands and thousands of young American troops in Vietnam. And guess what? Nobody's ever going to answer for this. People literally need to be swinging by their necks from trees over this, and they're never going to. Just this week, two things happened. Number one, the Bank of America, this is from the Daily Caller. Come to find out, the Bank of America worked with the feds to target gun owners. Bank of America worked with the FBI to investigate customers who made purchases with Bank of America credit and debit cards on and around January 6th and push those who had made gun purchases to the top of the list, according to the whistleblower's testimony obtained by Daily Caller News Foundation. The whistleblower, George Hill, a retired FBI supervisory intelligence analyst. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing that caught my eye with this. I wouldn't have even given this a half a thought, but guess what? The whistleblower was named. First name, last name. It wasn't, oh, an anonymous whistleblower said this. Anytime I see that, I go, okay, yeah, whatever. This guy's named George Hill, retired FBI supervisor intelligence analyst, testified to the House Judiciary Committee in February that Bank of America gave the FBI's Washington field office a list of individuals who made transactions in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area between January 5th and January 7th saying the company did so of its own volition and without any known legal process, according to testimony made by the House Judiciary Committee in February. You have a Bank of America card? Cut it up. You have a loan through them? Refinance that loan through somebody else. It's time to start breaking these banks. It's time to start making the money lenders really hurt whenever they do something like this. Now they're saying, Hill testified, that the Bank of America, with no directive from the FBI, data mined its customer base. Right. I'm supposed to believe this. Bank of America just went out and just did this and gave private information to the FBI. I don't believe that. It's good to know that they did this because now there needs to be a massive retaliation for Bank of America. We need to just run them broke, run them out of town. What we do with our money is what we do with our money. It's none of your business. And then you turn right around. And this is the kicker. This is the one that gets me the most. This is from BBC. Okay? The FBI Director, Christopher Wray, has said that the Bureau believes COVID-19 most likely originated in a Chinese government-controlled lab. This is dated March 1st. This came out over the week. The FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident. It is the first public confirmation of the FBI's classified judgment of how the pandemic virus emerged. Many scientists point out that there's no evidence that it leaked from the lab, and that's a bunch of crap. There's tons of evidence that it leaked from the lab. We know it leaked from the lab. Some of us have been pointing this out for a long time. Before Fauci called the little meeting and rounded all the wagons up and told everybody, if you don't stick to the same story, you're not going to get any more funding, threatened them. One of the first things that happened is some of the scientists looked at the whole COVID virus under a microscope and said, this looks lab created. And then all of a sudden, like somebody threw a switch, which we know the switch was the meeting that Fauci held. We know it. It's documented what he did. All of a sudden they all went, nope, not lab created. Nope. It's not lab created. And if you even mentioned that it was lab created on Facebook or Twitter at the time, your tweet got blocked. You got a nasty gram. You might have gotten blocked or thrown off. You know it. And now all of a sudden, the FBI comes out and said, oh yeah, we pretty much thought it was from day one. This is scary. Of course, the White House comes out and says there's no consensus across the U.S. government on the origins. A joint China World Health Organization investigation in 2021 called the lab leak theory extremely unlikely. Let me just back up and say this. A joint venture between China, where it came from, and the World Health Organization, who has many times come out and said they'd like to see the United States of America basically buried, investigated themselves and said, nothing to see here, folks. However, the WHO investigation was deeply criticized and its director general has since called for a new inquiry. Oh, isn't that special? It's crazy. The slow rollout of everything that a lot of us have been saying, the very obvious facts, the facts that are out there, the things that are out there, a lot of us started asking questions right off the bat about COVID. I mean, we're talking like April of 2020, we started looking around going, now none of this is making sense. What's going on? What's happening here? And if you remember, I'm doing these shows and I'm looking at the stats. I'm looking at the statistics versus the reaction to what's going on and going, none of this makes sense. This is only really hurting the aged, people over 65, and the people who already are infirmed, people who have heart diseases, diabetes, whatever. And I'm still not going to apologize for it. I told people, you got to weigh the difference for yourself. You have to weigh what's going on for yourself. If you are going to get this and die, I don't know, maybe you should get a vaccine. Maybe you should wear a mask. You got to weigh the difference. What's going to kill you quicker? But the reaction, everybody's got a mask. We all got to have mRNA vaccines. Don't take the other ones because they'll kill you. mRNA vaccines. Well, I didn't take an mRNA vaccine. I told you up front I wasn't going to. And I didn't. And thank God I didn't. That was a good decision. But if you did, well, you did what you did. And now more and more and more people are waking up to the fact that, no, I'm not going to get a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th booster. This is crap. We're finding out that it's doing a lot. And then what else are we going to find out about it? The things that we've been saying, are they going to slowly roll that out? We already know. Pfizer covered up the fact that there are tons of issues with their vaccine, with mRNA vaccines. It's messing up women's menstrual cycles. It's creating issues, health issues. It's killing people. But yet it keeps right on rolling out. And of course, Pfizer, Moderna, they're all protected under the Emergency Authorization Act. We can't sue them. So it leaves our options limited. And of course, you got these idiots out there, and I see this all the time. It's just, I can't understand how people can be so stupid. Somebody please explain it to me. They're out there going, I was vaccinated 16 times and I wear 8 masks wherever I go and I still got COVID. Darn you, unvaccinated people. Really? Really? You're blaming the unvaccinated people because you've had 4 or 5 booster shots? You're wearing a mask everywhere you go? Has it ever occurred to these people? I mean, I would like to get a hold of one of these people and just sit down and just over a cup of coffee, just very honestly go, look, I don't hate you. You did what you did. I'm not even going to, everybody's got their excuse for doing what they do. But what I want to know is this. Did it ever occur to you? Did you ever lay awake at night and just have this thought go through your head? Maybe, just maybe, none of what you did and you were told to do was effective against stopping COVID. Did you ever consider for a moment that the people from Pfizer and the people from the CDC and the FDA and the NIH, who go back and forth between really cushy, high-paying jobs in the companies to extremely privileged government positions, back and forth all the time. Did it ever occur to you that maybe they weren't exactly being on the up and up with you? Did it ever occur to you in your life that maybe your natural virus-fighting system, God gave you in your body, once you get COVID, creates its own antibodies that are twice as effective as this shot? Oh, no, we were told all of this. We were told every single bit of this was a conspiracy theory. It was a lie. Trust us. We're the government. We are not going to lead you astray. And then if you had dared mention, looked at all, and I asked this question over and over again. It was awful suspicious that Trump had China backed up against the wall. He was out there saying China is going to have a fair trade with the United States. And I'm not talking fair trade as in what my predecessors had. It's going to be dollar for dollar fair trade, or we're not going to do business with them. You had them backed up against the wall. They were about ready to collapse. And all of a sudden, the entire planet was thrown into darkness over some weird virus that didn't act like all the other viruses act. If you questioned it, the government was watching you, and it turns out they suspected the exact same thing. And they're telling you this. I'm not a conspiracy theorist anymore. I'm a realist. Conspiracy theory is offensive. I prefer the term realist. I ask questions. When things are stupid and they don't make sense, I ask questions. I want to know the truth. When you piss down my back and tell me it's raining and then you blame me for the weather, I'm going to ask you questions. And if you call me a conspiracy theorist, I'm going to laugh at you because I'm a realist. I don't just believe what you say at face value. Speaking of things at face value, and I want to get to a few more stories before I jet out of here. Truth comes from the strangest places sometimes. This is an article from MSN, and this is a strange place for truth to come out. New York City Mayor Eric Adams. That's a strange place for truth to come out. He said today, that fellow Democrat Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's election defeat last week should serve as a warning sign for the country. Rejecting criticism that he is feeding into a Republican narrative on crime and addressing public safety concerns in the Big Apple. He's feeding into the Republican narrative on crime. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you witness. It's a narrative. Eric Adams said this: public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. Let me back up just a second, okay? He said this: public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. He nailed it. Where is the argument in that statement? It goes on to say, same as Chicago, like New York, and many of our big cities across America. That is why we focus double-digit decrease in shootings, double-digit decrease in homicides, which we have witnessed this year, particularly in the month of February. All of our index crimes are low for the entire year. We are focused on public safety because people want to be safe. They don't feel safe. And they actually say, then you're going to lose control of your city if you're not feeling safe. Lori Lightfoot became the first Chicago mayor in 40 years to serve just one term, and they yeeted her out. Why? Because she's an incompetent idiot. She has let Chicago basically be run right into the ground. People have not forgotten 2020. The summer of 2020 was bad, and these politicians need to pay for it. Why does this come from New York City Mayor Eric Adams? He's right. He's not wrong. People want to feel safe. If they live in a big city, they want to know that if there's a crime committed, somebody is going to answer for that crime. Somebody's going to get taken off the street. Somebody's going to get put in jail, put in prison, and learn their lesson. They don't want these progressive judges letting a hardened criminal go just because of their skin color. What do you get when you have that? You get what we had at Michigan State University. You get somebody who should have been in prison on a federal gun charge walking into a campus and killing people. And nobody wants to say that. And you notice that went away real quick. The MSU shooting went away real quick. When they rolled out a picture of that progressive judge right next to the shooter and said, this judge did not put this man in prison on a federal gun charge, but instead let him right back out on the streets, and days later shot up Michigan State University's campus. When they rolled that picture up, let me tell you what, the media, the Democrat-controlled media, the progressives, even Whitmer, they just started sweeping this story under the carpet. It needs to be shouted from the rooftop. That man that shot up Michigan State was let go with not even a slap on the wrist over a federal gun charge. He shouldn't have even had access to what he had. People want to feel safe. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is so close So close to waking up. There's a difference between woke and waking up. He's very close to waking up. People don't want your progressive crap. People don't care about skin color. They want to feel safe. Black people, white people, brown people, yellow people, they want to walk the streets at night. I know a guy that lives in Chicago. He's a 6'5" black man. You would hate to see this guy. I've literally watched him pick things up that are just inhuman. One of the nicest people in the world. But man, if you've seen him, you go, oh man, he's a scary dude. He's huge. He pulled me aside one time. I'm going to tell you this story. He pulled me aside one time. He goes, you carry, right? It's like, yeah. He goes, I do too. I do too. I got my CPL a couple weeks ago because I've been working these night shifts, delivering stuff. He goes, and I got to go through some parts of Detroit that scare me to death. And I talked to him for a while. We talked about 15, 20 minutes about it. I said, you know what? You do what you got to do. I'm going to act like I didn't even hear you. And I know he still carries to this day, and I know he still delivers parts to this day, and he takes the chance. He could get fired, but he takes that chance because it's better than him losing his life and his wife and his 3 kids growing up without a dad. Because he wants to feel safe. It all boils down to that. I consider him a brother in arms because I want to feel safe too. And we happen to have been both working in a place that really wasn't that safe. I didn't blame him and he didn't blame me. Was that racist of me? No. He's just like me. I'm just like him. When I go into a place where the crime rate's off the charts, you better believe I'm armed. Doubly so most of the time. Because I just want to feel safe, and so do these people. And when you have a society where you can't trust the contract with your government to keep you safe, when you have mayors like Lori Lightfoot who have basically come out and said, look, we're going to stop prosecuting people based on their skin color. We're going to let these criminals back out on the street because it's not their fault. Society's to blame. Okay, well, that may be good and fine, but he's going to go right out there and shoot somebody. He's going to go out there and stab somebody, kill somebody, break somebody's neck. But that doesn't matter because critical race theory, diversity and equity, absolute insanity. Lori Lightfoot, get out of here. We don't want you around. Couple more things before I get out of here. I got so much. I could go an hour and a half. I'm not going to. Not going to bore you. Just be aware. Another thing I ran into when I was kind of looking at some things from the BBC. China has boosted its military budget, warning of escalating threats. So China will increase military spending more than 7% this year while warning of escalating threats. It was announced at the National People's Congress, a rubber stamp parliament, which is due to confirm President Xi Jinping's third term. Beijing's military budget is around $225 billion, which is still dwarfed by that of the United States, which is 4 times more. But analysts believe China downplays how much it spends on defense. Outgoing Premier Lai Keqiang told NPC that external attempts to suppress and contain China are escalating. The armed forces should intensify military training and preparedness across the board. They're preparing for war in China. Russia is already fighting. It's already in a war. Iran, North Korea. These people are enemies of the United States of America. We have extremely, insanely unwise, stupid people running the United States of America right now. They're ignoring this. Well, I'm sure they know about it, I'm sure, but they believe they know better. They believe they have a way. We are the closest we have ever been. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not going to go on a big rant about it. We are the closest that I believe we have ever been to having the United States of America invaded by a coalition of countries, including but not limited to places like North Korea, China, Russia, Iran. Name a bunch of other countries. Once it starts, other countries that we pissed off, Afghanistan, other places like that are going to jump right up on the bandwagon. Be aware. Be advised. It could happen in the next 5 years. It could happen in the next year. Put some time into thinking about what you're going to do if it happens. I'm Alan Ray. I'd like to thank everybody in chat for hanging out with me tonight, guys. You're the best. You really are. And the memes they have on there are just absolutely hysterical. Think about these things. Do the research for yourself. You cannot trust the media. You can't. Well, they've proven time and time again, you just can't trust them. You cannot trust the government. They've proven time and time again. And I don't care if it's on the right or left, you just can't trust them. When they say they're from the government and here to help, they're here to help themselves. The government is a self-serving entity now. It's not by the people for the people. It's by chosen people from special interest groups, put in by lobbyists to perpetuate power, to eventually lead us into a global government. And you don't want that. The cat's out of the bag. They're saying it loud and proud now that we want a one world government. You don't want that. You really don't want that. It's bad. That's Alex Jones stuff right there. It really is. That is just conspiracy theories. 20 years ago, if you started ranting like this, I would go, yeah, okay, whatever. But they're out there telling you it now. The people are telling you that's what they want. And they're saying we're going to push you into it. People with a lot of money, a lot of power, buying politicians, buying judges, are telling you this is what we're going to force upon you. Wake up. Wake up. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It's realization that it's happening. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're a realist. When you see things that don't make sense, ask questions, demand answers. Point out hypocrisies. The people that blindly trust the media, the government, whatever, I feel so bad for them. Because when the carpet's yanked out from under them and they're laying in the dirt on their face, they're going to ask themselves what happened. What happened started about 40 years ago, maybe longer. These people are patient, and now it's coming to fruition. I tend to agree with Jeff in chat. 2030's got some kind of significance. I don't know what yet. 2035 especially. But in those 5 years, you're going to see some stuff that nobody in this country has ever seen since the very beginning. I'm out of here. I'm Alan Ray. Have a great week. Lord willing, I will catch you next Sunday night, same time, same place. In the meantime, keep it locked at klrnradio.com for all your podcast wants and desires. We've got the best stuff ever. It's going to be a great week. Just bookmark this and then just break the knobs off. Keep it on here all the time. You're going to love at least something. We'll talk again soon. God bless.
Striking all over the world. There's lightning striking all over the world. There's lightning striking all over the world. There's lightning striking all over the world.